Okay, lovely. All right, so let's go ahead and move to the types of cooperatives. And unfortunately, I don't see Dave, so I will do my best to do this. Dave Swanson is a lawyer at Deloitte or at Dorsey and Whitney who does a lot of cooperatives and has been around in the cooperative field for about 28 years. And he had agreed to join us, but he must have had a conflict. So I want to talk a little bit about the types of co-ops. So there is a wide variety of co-ops that exist. There could be service co-ops, which tend to be a group of professionals who get together. They create a cooperative business or buy a business and convert it to a cooperative, and they offer services. So an example would be an accounting firm or a law firm. Law firms are kind of run like cooperatives, but more partnerships. But an accounting firm, but just about any service business could be turned into a service cooperative. A retail cooperative, there's an example in Bloomington of a quilt shop. And as Kim mentioned, as she mentioned, she's not getting any younger, none of us are. But as part of a retirement or exit strategy, a lot of baby boomers are looking at turning cooperatives, turning their business over to a cooperative, to a worker-owned cooperative. And so a retail example is that quilt shop in Bloomington. But this is going to be more and more prevalent as baby boomers age. We'll see more of this. It's a great opportunity for an exit strategy, especially in a situation where there's not an owner. The owner does not have a family member they want to pass the business on to, or if the business is no longer, if their family members aren't interested in running the business. So they can keep that business going without having to worry about losing that legacy, and they turn it over to employees who know the business and can run the business. There are housing cooperatives. So there are buildings and apartment complexes, condos that can be housing cooperatives. In New York, that's very popular to have housing cooperatives, so shared ownership of property. And so actually we have North Country is one of our nonprofit organizations who they exclusively work on housing nonprofits in the housing cooperatives in the Twin Cities and across the state. So housing cooperatives are another option. Producer cooperatives, those are folks who come together to get better pricing, to be able to get better position in the marketplace. And so oftentimes you'll hear of farming cooperatives. So that's an example of a producer cooperative. Their grocery cooperative is probably the model we're most familiar with, right? Mississippi Market, the Wedge are two examples of cooperatives here in the Twin Cities. Seward is actually interesting because that's a kind of a blended model. And then the one we're talking about today is a restaurant cooperative. So in the Twin Cities, we have a couple of hybrid models of worker cooperatives. And so Hell's Kitchen is an ESOP. There's the Matchbox, as well as, and the name is escaping me now, Hard Times Cafe, where there's some ownership, but it's not really set up as a typical worker cooperative owned restaurant. There is a restaurant in Ohio that is a worker cooperative, and it's actually kind of an interesting story, so I'll share it because part of the cooperative model is that we share amongst each other quite freely. And so they shared this story and lots of their materials with me, and so I'll share it with you. The restaurant is Casa Nueva. It's located in Ohio. And in 1985, the owner of the restaurant went on his honeymoon and never returned. So the employees realized that pretty quickly that it was because he had a tremendous amount of debt on the books. And so the employees and the community got together and raised the funds to keep the restaurant open. So now it's 100% employee run. And they do a wonderful job of onboarding employees who want to become members of the worker cooperative. in that restaurant, it's an $1,800 buy-in in order to be a worker owner. And you go through an apprentice or training process. You can't actually become a worker owner for a year. That allows each worker to be able to go through the various trainings. So there's training on financials, on running a restaurant, on running a cooperative. And so after they've completed that training process and sat on those committees, then they can become owners of the cooperative. And so that's an example. There aren't a lot of other examples of, and well, actually, let me just pause for a minute and talk about who makes up the membership of the cooperative. So there are consumer cooperatives, worker cooperatives, and then multi-stakeholder cooperatives. The consumer cooperative is one where the people who frequent the establishment have ownership. They buy a membership. So again, Mississippi Market, the Wedge. I'm a member of Mississippi Market. I'm sure some of the people on the call are members of consumer cooperatives. And so you buy a membership and then you get the benefits of it. So sometimes it's discounted pricing. It may be some coupons. I get coupons periodically from Mississippi Market, or it may be something like being able to get some sort of dividend or payout at the end of the year. And so consumer cooperatives are quite common. We are now seeing a movement towards worker-owned cooperatives. So worker-owned is like the Casa Nueva example that I gave. The workers actually own the business. And so that can be starting a brand new business. And so it could be, for example, a service worker-owned cooperative that focuses on consulting, on business consulting. That's an example of a type of cooperative, worker service-owned cooperative. And so the workers own and run the business typically. And so that is an option. As we talk about options and next steps, that's an option for a formation of a cooperative. But the workers have to be interested and willing to do the buy-in and also willing to participate and run that business. So there's a lot there for a worker-owned cooperative. And then there's a multi-stakeholder cooperative. That is a combination of different people with different interests. So it could be consumers and workers. It could be consumers, workers, and service providers or vendors. So it's a group of varied interests that come together to purchase or to establish a cooperative. Purchase a business and establish a cooperative.